Let's talk about the Indianapolis Regional Championships. This weekend, I was at the Pokemon TCG Regional Championships in Indianapolis, Indiana. And as you can tell by the title, I was disqualified. Before we talk about why I was disqualified, I wanted to shout out Day 2 events. They ran such a smooth and solid event. With over 2,300 Master TCG players, this event was a feat for anyone, and they did it so well. So props to them and their staff. Now, let me set the scene for everyone just so you can get a feel of why the disqualification happened and why it was important. For those unfamiliar about how TCG works at a regional event, you play 9 best-of-3 series, and those who have 19 points, match points at the end of the day, move on to Day 2 of the event. For a win, you get 3 points, for a tie, you get 1 point, and for a loss, you get 0 points. I'm not going to go through each round that I played, but I was playing Arceus Giratina, a deck that I had grinded a ton up until this point to prepare for this event, and I felt really good about it going into the regional. But after 4 rounds of play, I was sitting at 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 tie, which, if you do the math, is 4 match points. And in order to make Day 2, I needed to win the next 5 rounds to go 6 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie to hit the minimum of 19 points. Now, this is a pretty tall order. Winning 5 straight rounds at a regional is kind of difficult, but after another 4 rounds of play, I was sitting at 5 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie. This means in round 9, I would be playing a win-in to see if I would make it to Day 2. Now, my opponent, who was awesome, super fun to play against, and just ultimately a really cool person, was also sitting at 5 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie, and they needed to win to advance to the next Day 2. They were playing Snorlax Stall, which is a very grindy deck to play against, but I was able to take game 1, and after a very long game 2, they were able to mill my deck, and I wasn't able to draw any more cards, which means they won the game. So we were tied at 1 game apiece going into game 3, which we didn't get too far into as time was essentially called at the beginning of our game. And after 50 minutes, we hadn't determined a winner. Now, something that happens in the Pokemon TCG community is you set up a gentleman's agreement with your opponent that says basically whether you do it off prizes or the board state, you have some way to determine a winner. Now, being that we had just started the game, there was no real way to do it, and being that he was playing Snorlax, you wouldn't do prizes anyway, so we were looking at the board state, and we had just started this game, so there wasn't a way to tell who would come out victorious, so we had to find another way to determine a winner. So we ended up deciding to roll a dice, because it didn't make sense for either of us to take a tie, as a tie essentially eliminated both of us. I was personally okay losing to a roll of the dice than eliminating both of us. I'd rather give that win to my opponent, but being that I'm a competitor, I still wanted to make Day 2. I wasn't just going to hand it over to him just because, and neither was he, rightfully so. We had both worked really, really hard to get to this point. We wanted a chance to move on to the next day. Now, taking a tie here would guarantee me championship points, but I wasn't going for a Worlds invite. Day 2 was more of the priority. Now, I figured that rolling a dice was against the rules, but at the moment I didn't know that it was a DQ'able offense, which is ultimately on me for not knowing the rules. You should know the rules at the event that you're playing at. Now, as I was getting to roll the dice, a judge saw this, and as I actually rolled the dice, he came over and kind of slammed his hand on the dice and went to get a head judge. The head judge came over. He ultimately told us that what we were doing was a DQ'able offense because we were determining the outcome through random means, which is against the rules. He showed me the rulebook. I saw it. So being that we were disqualified, it was like we didn't play in the event at all, which does suck, but I did break the rules, so I have to take the consequences for what I did, and I really don't have an issue with the judge ruling. Going into round 9, I was super proud of how I was playing. Regardless of whether I lost that match straight up, I won, or even getting DQ'd, I was very happy because I had played some really good Pokemon. I kept my composure in the next half of that regional despite a bad start, and I gave myself a chance to make Day 2, which I had never done before. So I still was really proud of myself despite getting disqualified. I totally own up to the mistake that I made, and like I said, whatever consequences came out of it, I was okay taking. But I do want to have a discussion about the actual rule of determining a winner through random means. I agree with this rule up until round 9 in the situation that myself and I'm sure many others have been in. I don't think that you as a competitor should be able to roll a dice and determine any match at a regional this way, but if you can intentionally draw to determine the outcome, which is where both players agree to take a tie, I do think that both players that are sitting on the cusp of making Day 2 should be able to agree on determining a winner through another way. Personally, I would like to see an exception that allowed this to be done by the judge only in round 9, and only if a win would push someone into 19 points, and that both players agree to it. That way, it can be supervised by a judge to ensure that there's no bad intentions. The judge could do the role themselves to avoid any weird behavior happening, and then players can have some peace and move on. I do get that this might not be for everyone, as some players might want to take the tie to get points, but it does feel like there is a large group of competitors that would prefer this instead of eliminating themselves and their opponents. And let me clarify, if you agree to a gentleman's, whether it's board state or this new method that I'm considering, and you back out of said gentleman's, I do think that that's kind of scummy, so don't do that. But at the end of the day, I would love to hear from you guys. I really do think just bringing up the discussion and seeing if there's a better solution is worth it. So let me know what you think. What are the pros and cons to this new exception that I've put out? Is there a better exception? Should I just suck it up and take the tie? Let me know. I do also want to apologize for slacking in the content game recently. I've been traveling and I've been putting a lot of time into prepping for this regional, and while this technically wasn't my best placing, I am still, again, super proud of my performance. I gave myself a chance to make day 2, and I'm really happy about that, despite whatever happened in round 9. With that said, more regular uploads are coming soon, so thank you all so much for the support, and take care.